My wife, Sherry, presumed I was oblivious to her intentions, perhaps even considering me foolish. She seemed to believe I'd acquiesced to her indiscretions, allowing her to maintain her affair with Todd while continuing to be my wife. Unbeknownst to her, I had harbored suspicions for quite some time, noticing various telltale signs of infidelity, frequent late nights at work, upgrades to her wardrobe suggestive of 13 content, a newfound aggressiveness in our intimate moments, and a marked disinterest in our shared passions. Despite my attempts to address my concerns, Sherry brushed them aside, attributing them to my insecurity and possessiveness. Left with no other recourse, I enlisted the services of a private investigator. I refused to turn a blind eye to her actions, having made it abundantly clear from the outset of our relationship and reiterated throughout our 10-year marriage that infidelity was intolerable to me. Sitting in investigator Jake Sloan's office, I experienced a mixture of emotions as he delivered his findings. Relief washed over me momentarily upon learning Sherry had not yet engaged in physical infidelity. However, that relief was short-lived when Sloan cautioned it was only a matter of time. Sherry and Todd were what they termed working spouses, a term I despised as it implied an intimacy with someone other than myself. According to the investigator's findings, Sherry and Todd shared lunch daily, often alone, holding hands and engaging in intimate gestures like hugging and occasional kissing. Witnessing these actions filled me with rage, igniting a desire to confront Todd for his smugness. Apart from lunches, they frequently stayed late at work without valid reasons, seemingly prolonging their time away from their respective spouses to maximize their us time. The detective disclosed that he had accessed Sherry's emails and messages, although I was aware of the illegality of such actions and knew I couldn't utilize them in divorce proceedings. In our state, proving adultery for divorce was challenging, with no-fault divorces being more straightforward, which was all I needed. Sloan declined to provide me with copies of the messages but offered summaries, assuring me that Sherry had never spoken ill of me and had resisted Todd's attempts to disparage me. While their correspondence confirmed their romantic involvement, neither professed love, but their exchanges were highly sexual. As I contemplated my next move in Sloan's office, he delivered distressing news: Todd's wife would be away for 3 days, creating an opportunity for Sherry and Todd to consummate their relationship. Their only obstacle was my presence. They brainstormed ways to spend the night together without my interference. Considering various plans, including fabricating a girls-only trip for Sherry to evade suspicion. However, fearing potential exposure from her friends, they ultimately abandoned the idea. Then they considered coercing me into leaving town. I bitterly chuckled, recalling Sherry's suggestion of organizing a golf trip with my buddies, an idea that held no appeal to me, effectively shutting down that option. Ultimately, they settled on a new, albeit straightforward approach: honesty. Todd believed I was a potential cuckold, convinced I'd do anything to preserve my relationship with Sherry, even if it meant allowing her to have an affair. He somehow convinced Sherry that by being with him, she could enhance our sex life and relationship, merely by informing me of her intentions with Todd. Astonishingly, Sherry bought into his scheme, unaware of my true stance on the matter. It surprised me greatly, and it led me to question her mental state. Sloan informed me that was the extent of their plan, so I accepted the information and returned home. I requested he continue monitoring Sherry's communications and notify me of any changes. On Friday, Sloan called, informing me that Sherry intended to meet with me the following Monday after work. She planned to disclose her intention to go on a date with Todd that Friday night. Their date commenced with dinner and dancing, culminating in a night of passionate intimacy at a hotel until exhaustion overtook them. Sherry, with the foresight to return home on Saturday or possibly Sunday, depending on the extent of their activities, meticulously rehearsed her speech with Todd, convincing themselves of my eventual compliance. They anticipated my initial dismay and anger, but Sherry intended to reassure me that it was a one-time occurrence, despite both knowing otherwise. She even proposed offering intimacy with me later as a token of appreciation for my understanding. Assuming my elation at the prospect of sharing Todd's leftovers would sway me to concede. How considerate of them to factor in my needs. With only 2 days until the confrontation, Sherry and Todd jokingly referred to it as an intervention, but I was determined it wouldn't unfold as they envisioned. I resolved to turn their intervention into my ultimatum. Over the weekend, I meticulously contemplated various scenarios, pondering how to salvage my marriage, if I even desired to. Unsure of my feelings towards Sherry, my plan gradually took shape. I opted for direct confrontation, resolving to put an end to it definitively. When Sherry and I tied the knot, we were incredibly happy. We spent all our time together, sharing every aspect of life. She was both my closest friend and my most passionate lover. But somehow, it all vanished. Maybe that's just how life goes, nothing lasts forever. Perhaps my vision of marriage was too idealistic. I thought we'd face life together as a team, tackling challenges side by side. Sherry and I had been married before, unsuccessfully. If this marriage failed too, maybe it wasn't us but the institution itself that was flawed. How can people sustain feelings, desires, and passions when life constantly throws curveballs, reshaping everything? In a world of fleeting attention spans and instant gratification, maybe marriage is outdated, like dinosaurs and CDs. I briefly entertained the thought of letting Sherry be with Todd, then reality hit me. There's no way I'm letting Todd disrespect me like that. I may not want Sherry anymore, but I won't let him claim her. Forget it, I was ready to fight. As my wife called me just after lunch on Monday, I greeted her, "Hey Sherry. Is everything alright? You rarely call me at work now. I hope everything's fine." "Hi honey," she replied. Honey, really? Did she use that term with Todd too? It's nothing serious. I just want to make sure you'll be home on time tonight. I need to discuss something important. Sure, that works, I responded, adding, I've got some important news for you too. I'll be home around 5:15. Is that okay? There was a pause before she responded. When she asked that, it was just for logistics. Big news? What's it about? She inquired. I'll tell you later, I said, deciding to wrap up the conversation. I'm in the middle of my monthly report. I need to finish it so I can leave on time. See you at home. I ended the call and headed to my boss's office to inform him I was taking the rest of the day off. He didn't mind, which was a relief. I had some preparations to make for the showdown. I sat at the kitchen table, hearing the garage door open at 5:27. Nervousness mingled with anger as I struggled to maintain outward composure amidst inner turmoil. With an open bottle of Sauvignon Blanc on ice and 2 glasses ready, I awaited Sherry's arrival. 2 minutes later, she entered alone, tossing her keys and purse onto the table. I felt relief she hadn't brought Todd, that would have complicated matters. I greeted her with a smile. Hi honey, I echoed the affectionate term she'd used earlier. Welcome back. Do you need time, or should we dive in? She seemed surprised by my readiness to talk, expecting it to happen later. I wasn't giving her the upper hand, I aimed to keep her off balance and unprepared, disrupting her planned narrative. I didn't think you'd be waiting, but sure, let's start, she responded, taking a seat opposite me. I'd like to share my news first, if that's okay, I insisted. No, she hesitated. It's fine. Well, want some wine? I offered, not waiting for her response as I poured us both a glass. Yeah, that'd be good, she sighed, taking a sip after I placed it in front of her. I refilled her glass promptly. So, I've been thinking, I began, getting straight to the point. No need to drag this out. Pausing for effect, I saw Sherry lean in, her gaze fixed on me. What's up? She inquired. I want a divorce, I declared plainly, waiting for her reaction. It didn't take long. Sherry's expression shifted rapidly, initial confusion, followed by shock, then fear. She seemed worried I might have discovered her affair with Todd. Why? She asked, her voice tinged with apprehension. I don't love you anymore, I stated, watching her reaction. It hit her like a blow to the chest. What? She stammered, struggling to process my words. I've fallen out of love with you, Sherry. I can't pinpoint when it happened. I lied. I knew precisely when, long ago. I tried to ignore it, but lately, I can't deny it any longer. What do you mean? She asked, on the verge of tears. Her reaction surprised me. Remember when we first got married? I prompted. How inseparable we were. Everywhere we went, stores, movies, malls, we were together. She nodded. I remember, she said softly, we'd make time for lunch, rush home from work to be together, I continued. I missed you every day, looked forward to coming home, kissing you, and often making love. Remember those pottery classes you made me take? I thought you hated pottery, she said, studying me closely. It wasn't about the pottery, it was about sharing the experience with you, I assured her. I cherished every moment, watching you, assisting you, and sharing your enthusiasm. The same went for painting those Christmas village buildings. Remember how we painted those little houses together for our Christmas display? Yours were always better, Sherry reminisced. And those nights spent painting shingles, I nodded. I loved you so much then. We spent hours painting those posters from Myrtle Beach, way before adult coloring books were popular. We still have those pens, but like our love, they've dried up, I remarked, noticing Sherry's reaction. My love hasn't dried up, she retorted defensively. Ignoring her, I continued, our friends envied us. We did everything together, long walks, errands to the hardware store, shopping for clothes. I'd wait outside the locker room while you shopped, yeah, but you hated it, she challenged me. You were always on your phone, not paying attention to the clothes. I didn't mind what you picked, I thought you looked beautiful in everything. I just wanted to be with you. I could have stayed home watching sports, I countered. We talked about how other women in the neighborhood did bingo or bachelorette parties, but you never wanted to go. Remember what you said? Sherry wiped away a tear. Yes, I remember, you said you'd rather be with me than with the chickens. We spent many nights cuddled up watching You've Got Mail. I love that movie, she said, holding back tears. We must have seen it 100 times, I replied, refilling her glass. I still want to watch it with you, Sherry said, her voice wavering. I don't want a divorce. I thought we'd grow old together, take cooking or ballroom dancing lessons, or just lie in bed and read, anything as long as we're together. But we're growing apart, Sherry. I'm not sure when it started, I said, meeting her gaze. We used to eat out often, but now it's only once a week. You were the reason for that. You claimed you were too busy for lunch dates, but you still went out, just not with me, and before I knew it, we weren't having lunch together anymore. I started eating with my coworkers, and I found myself enjoying their company. I exaggerated, careful not to blame Sherry. I didn't want her to get defensive or start an argument. This conversation could turn sour quickly, and that wasn't my intention, at least not yet. Coming home early to spend time together stopped being a priority. We started working later and later. And when we did come home, we were distant or distracted. Why didn't you talk to me about this? Sherry asked. If I knew it mattered to you, I would have made an effort to have lunch together more often or leave work earlier. You're right, I conceded, though I'd said it before. I wish I understood why it wasn't important for you to be with me. Maybe I could have changed something to make you want to spend more time together. I feel like I failed in that regard. I took responsibility for our situation, although it wasn't entirely true. Before I confronted Sherry about Todd, I wanted her to remember what we had and consider her role in its demise. I knew if I brought up Todd first, the conversation would turn sour, and she wouldn't see my perspective. I didn't want to appear controlling or jealous. I wanted her to reflect on our relationship before revealing what I knew. Gradually, we started doing less together. You went to bachelorette parties, I went to poker nights. You'd visit spas on weekends, I'd golf. We hardly talked, even about the weather or news. Our sex life suffered too, we were often too tired or uninterested. When we got married, we couldn't get enough of each other. We had sex 4 or 5 times a week, sometimes more. We'd skip dinner and spend the night together. We used to go to the hot tub all the time, but it's been over a year. I thought you weren't interested in sex anymore, Sherry objected. I had no clue where she got that idea. She was probably trying to blame me. Oh God, no, I chuckled. I still want sex, I'm just not interested in it with you. I knew that would sting. She thought she'd rejected me, but I was telling her I didn't desire her sexually. It hurt too much to laugh. What? Sherry asked in a broken voice. I don't think she expected me to say that. You didn't want to have sex with me. I lost all interest, I said absent-mindedly. You were a cold fish. You just laid there. You never wanted to do anything exciting or even remotely naughty. It seemed to me that you wanted to get it over with soon so you could get back to something more interesting like knitting. All the while, I still wanted weekend sex marathons like I used to. Hell, you didn't even want me to give you pleasure. She stared at me for a few moments. Her tears had dried and her face was flushed. I wasn't sure if it was from anger, frustration, or embarrassment. I refilled her empty glass. It was only a matter of time, I continued, before we started looking for someone else we wanted to spend time with. I didn't mean me, but she didn't know that. Are you cheating on me? She suddenly asked angrily. Are you in love with someone else? Sherry, you know how I feel about infidelity. I made a vow to you when we got married, and I take that vow seriously. I know your first husband cheated on you, just like my first wife slept with a coworker behind my back. I would never do that to you, just as I know you would never stoop so low as to try to antagonize me by screwing another man. How could you think I would do that? I'm sorry, she apologized. You're right. I know you wouldn't do that. She looked guilty and couldn't meet my gaze. Her hands were shaking. Let's wait until after the divorce to sleep together, I suggested, hinting at a new love interest. Which brings me to my big news. I've met with my lawyer and finalized the paperwork. You'll be served on Friday. Wait, what? She asked, growing desperate. I said you'll be served with divorce papers on Friday, I reiterated, trying not to smile. It's for the best. You can get your freedom back, and so can I. We can admit the last 10 years have been a waste and move on. They weren't a waste for me. Come on, Sherry, I urged. I think you want this too. Let's be honest. You haven't wanted to be with me for a while. Our wedding was a mistake. I'm not who you want to be with. No, you're not, she objected. I don't want a divorce. You can't just get one because you want to. I don't want this. I want to be married to you forever. I love you. I'm sorry, Sherry, but I don't love you anymore. This is a no-fault divorce state, so we can split all the assets 50-50ths. It's possible to get more if one of us cheats, but neither of us has, right? So, we can make a clean break. Let's divide the money from all our accounts equally at the bank tomorrow. We'll need to open new accounts, get new credit cards, and change utility bills. We'll also need to sell the house. I have a realtor coming Wednesday. Wait, you're rushing this, Sherry protested. I don't know what to do. Please stop, she pleaded. Don't worry, I've packed my things and I'll stay in a hotel until I can move permanently. You can stay here until the house sells. Wait, damn it, Sherry shouted. Please wait. There's no need, I insisted. We have to take care of everything before Friday, right? Why? What's so important about Friday? She demanded. Well, that's when you're going on a date with Todd, right? Planning to spend the night in a hotel and party all night? Sherry froze, her eyes wide as if they were about to pop out of their sockets. Her mouth hung open like a dying fish, attempting to speak but only managing a hiss. Did I get the day wrong? Wait, I said, pulling out a folder from under a stack of magazines and opening it. I showed Sherry a sheet from the investigator's report detailing her plans for Friday night with Todd. Nope, I'm right. You and Todd booked the Gaylord, Texas for Friday night. That's not. She began, but I interrupted, not what it seems. I finished for her. Do I need to show you the pictures of you two kissing at lunch? She stared at me, tears welling up again. I'm sorry, she whispered. Now I remember when I stopped loving you, I said, smiling. The day I found out you planned to cuckold me with your coworker, just like my ex-wife. I'm sorry, honey, she rushed, trying to convince me. I don't love Todd. It's just a fling to rekindle our relationship. After spending the night with him, we'll have a weekend of hot sex like before. Todd said you'd love it, that it'd turn you on and bring back our passion, yeah, revitalize our sex life by being with someone else instead of me. Does that make sense? No, but... She struggled to finish her sentence, then changed tactics. Todd said you'd agree if you wanted me to be happy. I want you to be happy, I replied. I want you to be happy with me like before. I don't want you happy with another man. Are you out of your mind? How could you think I'd be okay with that? You know how I feel about infidelity, yes, but... She attempted to justify herself. It wouldn't be infidelity. I wouldn't cheat. You'd give me your permission, not in this life, I asserted. I know that now. I should have known from the start. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I was bored and lonely. Todd made me feel alive again, bored and lonely. How could you feel that when we were happily in love, enjoying our time together? I don't know, but... She tried to explain. Did you ever consider you felt bored and lonely because you shut us off? You stopped having lunch with me, spending time together, doing things together. You chose to avoid me and be with him instead. So if you were bored and lonely, you created it by choosing to be with Todd. I don't think I did that, she said, staring at me, shaking her head. No, I can't believe I would do that. I thought you stopped coming over for lunch because you said you were too busy. Remember? You kept saying you had too much work. Then, one Wednesday, our lunch day, I picked you up, and you didn't even bother to come down to say you couldn't make it. You texted me to go without you. After that, I stopped coming over, and you never even mentioned we stopped having lunch. I don't think you even noticed. Sherry looked down at her hands. You were so wrapped up in your own world, you didn't notice you were losing me. It was all about you and Todd. Well, you can have him now. I don't want him, she snapped, looking up at me. I want you. I want us back the way we were. I'm so sorry I messed up. I gave up on us. It's too late, I said, shaking my head. You can't think like that. I didn't cheat. We didn't do anything. I won't see him again. I promise. I'll quit my job, find another. Please, I don't want to lose you. I still love you. You've betrayed me in every way but one. But that's the most important one. We didn't have sex. I was foolish. I got swept up by Todd. I didn't love him. I've only ever loved you. I don't know what I was thinking. I would have come back to you as soon as I realized. But it's over now. I see that. I know it. It was foolish. I was foolish. Todd means nothing to me. Please, baby, please don't leave me. It's not that simple, Sherry, why can't it be? I messed up. I admit it. But you stopped me before it went too far. You went too far, I disagreed. Just sex would have been enough, I didn't do anything. We were just friends, she insisted. You should have been my friend more than anyone else, I argued. I have plenty of friends. I don't kiss them. I've never replaced you with them and I never will. Accept it. Sherry buried her face in her arms, crying. I'll never neglect you again or take you for granted. I promise. Please, can't we treat this as a mistake? Can't you forgive me and give us another chance? This isn't a game, I told her. You didn't just make a mistake. You betrayed our love and gave your heart to another man. No, he never had my heart. It was always yours, and you were going to give him your body. But I didn't. You stopped me. Damn it, don't you love me enough to fight for me? Do I mean so little to you? You meant everything to me. I'd fight anyone for you. I'd die for you. Now, I wouldn't piss on you even if you were on fire. Sherry let out a piercing scream. She grabbed my hands and tried to pull me to her. No, no, please. You can't think like that. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. You have to believe me, I think you're sorry, I said. It shows me that you're not exactly a self-centered, heartless person. Then can you give me another chance? Please, I'm begging you. Please don't leave me, I'm not leaving you, Sherry. You did this on your own. I truly believe you're sorry. Maybe someday I can forgive you, but it doesn't change anything. I don't love you anymore. It's over, but don't worry. You always have Todd to comfort you. Todd is married, she said through her sobs. He only wanted to have sex. He didn't want a relationship, I grinned. Well, he might change his mind now. I'm sure his wife had something to say to him when he got home today. She and I used the same divorce attorney. Sherry's jaw dropped again. I pushed a folder across the table to her. The full investigator's report is here, along with pictures of you and Todd. His wife has a copy. Also in there is all the information from my attorney about the divorce and how we propose to divide the property. I suggest you read the whole thing. No, baby, please, she pleaded. Don't do this. If you want to come to the bank with me tomorrow, call me and let me know. I got up from the table and walked out of the house. Ignoring the sound of my wife crying. Epilogue. Sherry was grappling with the divorce. I didn't want a prolonged and costly legal battle, so when the judge suggested seeing a marriage counselor, I agreed. The counseling exceeded my expectations. Sherry and I tapped into our emotions. We communicated openly and without judgment about everything. She grasped why she had succumbed to Todd's advances and nearly lost me and our marriage. I expressed my pain and the humiliation she had caused me. The counselor commended our progress. After a few sessions, I returned home. We enjoyed passionate intimacy several times. Sherry eagerly embraced fulfilling my sexual desires. A year later, we were back to being the affectionate couple we were at the start of our marriage. Sherry switched jobs and now worked for my company. We commuted together daily, not out of obligation or control, but because we wanted to be together. In fact, we did nearly everything together. We decorated a small Christmas tree and completed painting 2 pictures we had abandoned years ago. We joined another ceramics class and registered for ballroom dancing. I even unearthed a box of all the colored pens. Surprisingly, they hadn't dried up after all. One evening, while snuggled under a blanket, munching on popcorn and watching You've Got Mail, Sherry planted a kiss on me and uttered, "Honey, I need to talk to you about something important." Tears welled up in her eyes. My heart skipped a beat. And panic set in. Before I could respond, Sherry went on, "You're going to be a daddy." I grinned and brushed the tears from her cheek, quoting in my best Tom Hanks impression, "Don't cry, shopgirl. I just have a soft spot for happy endings." Can't blame a guy for that, right? I hope you enjoyed this story. Please subscribe to the channel for new stories.